In this lecture, we're going to look at 7 words connected to population. Population, which basically means people. And the 7 words are civilian, demography, indigenous, migrate, opinion poll, overpopulation, per capita. And the first word is civilian. Civilian. Now, in a military situation, a civilian is anyone who is not a member of the armed forces, who is not a soldier, So in the picture here, these are the civilians, because they're not soldiers, of course. But you can also use the word as an adjective for non-military things, civilian. Let's look at some example sentences. So this use of civilian is an adjective. It was difficult to return to civilian life after 12 years in the military. So civilian life is an adjective form of civilian. It is thought that there were 190,000 civilian casualties during the Iraq War. So civilian casualties, people who are not soldiers. Both soldiers and civilians were killed in the battle. So this is using civilian as a noun. So the plural of civilian is civilians. Some common collocations, we talk about civilian population, civilian casualty. You can attack a civilian or protect a civilian or protect civilians. And some synonyms. Citizen. Although citizen is a more general form of the word. Non-combatant, so somebody who does not fight. So combat means you're fighting. Non-military and private citizen. So civilian. The next word is demographic. 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 This means something that relates to the study of population, in particular the changes in the numbers of births, deaths, marriages, and also disease in a community, in a population over a period of time. So it's to do with statistics. And it can be used as an adjective or a noun. And demo comes from the Greek word demos, which means people. And graphy, which means the study of. So demographic is the study of people. Here are some example sentences. Industrialization has caused many demographic changes. So changes to statistics in the population. You could also say industrialization has led to changing demographics. Let's look at those 2 sentences again. Industrialization has caused many demographic changes. That's an adjective. But here we're using the word as a noun, changing demographics. Here's another noun use. Most of my readers are in the 65 to 80-year-old demographic. Now in business, a demographic is a group of people in a society, especially people in a particular age group. So demographic, and the noun form is demography. Demography is an uncountable noun. It's the study of changes in a population, but it's not very often used. Demographic is more commonly used. And we also use the word demographics. Demographics are the actual statistics. So if you have statistics about the population, then you have demographics about the population. We talk about demographic changes, demographic profile, changing demographics, the key demographic. It's a very precise word, so there are no obvious synonyms, perhaps statistics, but that's a much more general word than demographic, which is very precise. The next word is indigenous. Indigenous. You stress the second syllable, dig. Indigenous. If a person is indigenous to a country, it means they were born in that country or their family comes from that country. So that person or the family did not move there. They did not migrate to the country. So people are indigenous to a particular country if they've lived there or their family has lived there for a long time. A culture or a language can be indigenous as well. And genus on the end. Genus means born. Indi means native, so it's native born in effect. Here are some example sentences. The Aztecs were one of the indigenous peoples of Mexico because they were always there in Mexico for a very, very long time, for thousands of years. The red fox is indigenous to parts of eastern USA, so it comes from there. It wasn't brought over on a ship. The red fox has always been there. The village is surrounded by hundreds of indigenous plants. So plants can be indigenous as well as people and animals. Some common collocations. We talk about the indigenous population, indigenous people, indigenous culture, and you can be indigenous to somewhere. Indigenous to eastern USA. And some synonyms for indigenous: native, homegrown, local. So indigenous. The next word is migrate. Migrate. If people migrate, they move from one place to another place. And they often do that to find work or to live somewhere. And animals migrate as well. So in the picture here, you have some birds and they are migrating to find some warmer weather. Some example sentences. People migrate from the countryside to the city in search of work. So they move to the city. Many birds migrate to Africa in the winter. Early humans migrated in search of food. Some forms for the word. It's a verb, so migrates, migrating, migrated. And the noun form is migration. So a migration of people, migration of birds. Somebody who migrates is known as a migrant. Migrant. But it's more common to use the word immigrant. Immigrant, which suggests that somebody has not just moved, which is migrant, but also lives in the place they moved to, which is immigrant. Some common collocations: you migrate from somewhere and to somewhere. A worker migrates. You can also use it as an adjective. You can talk about a migrant worker. And some synonyms: move for the verb form, relocate. Emigrate is another verb. So you leave. This emphasizes that you leave somewhere. And immigrate is the verb form, which suggests you're moving to somewhere. So migrate. The next phrase is opinion poll. Opinion poll. An opinion poll involves asking people's views on a particular subject, their opinions, especially one that concerns politics. So asks the opinions of the population. Here are some example sentences. Nearly 60% of people questioned in a recent opinion poll supported the government. Even though opinion polls showed otherwise, Trump won the election. Opinion polls suggest that there is support for the policy. Of course, the plural form of this is opinion polls. Somebody who carries out the opinion poll is known as an opinion pollster. So the person who stands with a clipboard ticking boxes is the opinion pollster. Opinion polls suggest is a common collocation, or show. Opinion polls indicate. And some synonyms: survey, simply just poll as well. So, opinion poll. The next word is overpopulation. Overpopulation. If there is a problem of overpopulation in an area, then there are more people living there that can be looked after, that can be supported properly. So when we talk about overpopulation, it's a problem because there are too many. There are more people than the area can support. Some example sentences: the region was suffering from overpopulation. There were too many people there. Maybe some went hungry. Food shortages stemmed from rapid overpopulation. Overpopulation kept agricultural wages at pitiful rates. Very bad rates. People were very poor. Some common collocations: overpopulation in a place. So overpopulation in somewhere. Rapid overpopulation, when it's very quick. We talk about the problem of overpopulation. Overcrowding is a synonym. That's the only synonym that I can think of. So overpopulation. You can see this city is overpopulated. Too many people there. The next word or phrase is per capita. Per capita. The per capita amount of something is the total amount of something in a country or area divided by the number of people in that country or area. It comes from the Latin capita, which means head. Capita means head. Per means for each. So in other words, it means for each head, for each person. So for example, we say Norway has the highest per capita income in the world. So you total the total income of Norway and divide it by the number of people, the number of heads in the country. The per capita consumption of alcohol has dropped over the past 2 years. So each person drinks less alcohol. This year, the French will eat about 40% more fresh apples per capita than the Germans. This is a slightly different use of per capita. Here is actually an adverb, because they eat a certain number. Eat per capita is describing eat. Some common collocations: we talk about per capita income, per capita consumption, income per capita, consumption per capita. Some synonyms: per head, per person, or for each person. So per capita. So those are your 7 words. civilian, demography, indigenous, migrate, opinion poll, overpopulation, per capita. So do the practice quiz and complete the vocabulary record to help you remember those 7 words.